Hello, my name is Kiriath, and today we are going to have a little chat about the Mars 2 Pro by Elegoo, specifically my Mars 2 Pro, which they were kind enough to send me to take a look at and do a video on, a review of. And you know what, this might actually end up being a relatively short video, because generally speaking, when it comes to doing reviews, the way to go about it is to do your pros and cons, the things you liked, the things that you didn't like, things that could be done better. But I don't really know what I would suggest in terms of things to do better or things that didn't work. I'm something of a complete nab when it comes to 3D printing. I don't have a huge amount of experience with it, to be honest. I've printed a fair amount so far, but I wouldn't say that I'm an expert in it by any means. It's very much a case of, what's the phrase? An enthusiastic amateur. When it comes to kind of dialing in your settings for each specific print and making sure that you've got your layer, the height and exposure times and all that stuff properly dialed in, I haven't really done any of that. I'll be honest, I've just used the default settings on Chitubox for the Mars 2 Pro, which is the software I use to take the STLs, which is your model file, and then you slice it in Chitubox. You take a USB stick, plug it into the Mars 2 Pro, and then you print, and that's all you need to do. And indeed, that's all I have done, and yet pretty much everything that's come out of it has been exactly the quality that I would hope for. I think so far I have not had a single point where I've taken a model off the build plate and I've cleaned it up and I've taken off all the supports, which, by the way, I found the easiest way to do that, and there could be a better way than this, but this works for me personally, is to just take the supports off before it's cured. When it comes to models that have got a lot of really small fine details, things like supports being attached directly to hands and to fingers, it can be a bit of an issue. But I've kind of found that that's the only way where I feel like I get a consistently decent finish off at the end. That, though, is less of a print issue and more of a user issue. I'm sure there's better ways to do it, but I've honestly found that just taking the supports off when the resin is still soft before it's cured, straight off the build plate, that's been what I've got the best results from so far. If there's a better way, then by all means do let me know in the comments, because I'm always up for learning a little bit more. Because, to be honest, in a weird way, I found that the Mars 2 Pro so far has meant that I haven't felt like I need to do deep dives on stuff. I'd suggest that it's very beginner friendly when it comes to getting into 3D printing. For a good few reasons, to be fair. Firstly, the quality of it is good. So it's got a 2K resolution screen for the printing. So the detail is really, really nice. As I say, I've not really had anything come out of there where I haven't been happy with it. I've been happy with the level of detail on every model I've done. And I've had quite a spread of different models come out of it. Things like hellhounds and angels and weird, creepy, multi-handed demon guys, right down to quite delicate female figure that's a sorceress of some kind, I believe. I forget the exact name of the model. But I've found that everything has come out looking good. I've not felt the need to sit there and kind of really dial in specific settings for specific types of model, because I would argue that for the most part it's pretty kind of plug and play, which is really good if you don't know precisely what it is that you're doing. If you're new to it, if you just want something where you can set it up, pour some resin into the tank, and then set it going, I mean, that's what I've been doing from pretty much day one with the Mars 2 Pro. And it's not let me down at any point in that process. The only times that I've had issues have been things that I've done wrong. I mean, specifically, I'm thinking of one particular print where I was not clever. I knew going into it that I would need to top up the vat, that I would need to put more resin into it. Otherwise, it would fail because it would just run out of resin. If there's not enough resin in there, then you're not going to get a full print out of it because there wasn't enough resin for that. And instead of doing it when I first thought about it, I said I would do one other thing quickly and then I'd do it, because I really wanted to get this other thing done, and then of course I got distracted, and so that print failed. It ended on a flat plane across multiple parts of the model because I didn't top up the resin. That's not a printer issue, that is a person issue. That's user error. That's just being flat out dumb is what that was. I was not impressed with myself. I was like, I'll do it in a minute. It's fine. It's got a few minutes. I'll do it in a minute. And then like half an hour later I went over and went, oh yeah. Oh no. Oh, that's a shame. That was a lot of printing that did without printing anything. That's my fault. Oh no. That kind of thing, that's just something you learn, isn't it? That's just user experience. That's remembering the next time you go to print something and you haven't topped it up, to top it up and not leave it until later. I'm sure everyone's done that, haven't they? Please say everyone has. I'm sure at least one other person has gone, yeah, I've been there. As long as one other person's done it, I'm fine, I'm happy about it. Happy is not the right word. But yeah, it's so far just been plug and play, just taking a model I want from one of the multitude of absurdly talented people out there making STLs, plugging it into Chitubox, slicing it with the settings that Chitubox provides for Mars 2 Pro printers, and then plugging it into the printer and clicking print. And that's literally it. I mean, if you don't want to overcomplicate things, then I can't really recommend it enough in terms of that. In terms of like the UI and stuff, it's really simple, really easy to navigate, very clearly laid out. Something that is really helpful, by the way, that I like about this a lot, is it has a built-in carbon filter. Now, I have my printer in the same room that I work in, so this is my office. This is where I like work on YouTube videos and stuff, and paint and hobby and kit bash, and having like resin just floating around constantly in a room that is not well ventilated isn't ideal. I would suggest that it's still not something that you really want to necessarily do long term, but there's a couple of things that make it a lot more doable with this printer, with the Mars 2 Pro, because it does have the built-in active carbon filter. I also have an air purifier in here as well, which I run when I'm printing especially. And there's two small filters that Elegoo also do. Now, they didn't send me the two small filters. I actually bought those because I've had pneumonia a couple of times. My chest, my lungs are just an absolute train wreck, and so it's best to be safe, it's best to be sure. So I have like multiple air purifiers running just to make sure that anything harmful is scrubbed out, and so the room doesn't end up full of like weird resin fumes or anything like that. The fact that it's already got that built in is already super helpful, but having that and something else to mitigate it, I think is a good idea, and I've noticed no particular difference in terms of I say air quality. I know that sounds kind of very, how do you even know? I tend to know things make me cough way more easy than most people. And so if something's off, or if there's like fumes of any kind floating around, I know about it pretty damn quickly. And I've not had that issue at all so far. When it comes to like what you can print off this, honestly, it feels like you could print pretty much anything. I've done multiple smaller single models that have been pretty high detail. I've done a 10-man squad of Bisque Knight Mage Hunters by a creator named Saint Decent. Really cool models, I really like those. I did a 10-man squad of those, which didn't take very long at all. They're pretty well detailed. There's lots of like layered armor and stuff going on. But it printed them really quickly and at a decent quality as well. In fact, I struggle to really know how much better the quality could be. Yeah, I mean, overall, I've just had nothing but positive experiences with it. Like, I'm trying to rack my brain to think, like, is there something there? Is there something about it that has not been what I thought it would be, or has made it like difficult to use or tricky to get my head around? Has there been anything that has like impacted it in a negative way? I feel like when it comes to like products that you work with and do stuff with, you need to look at things that kind of would reduce like usability, that would make you feel like you weren't getting the most out of it. And honestly, I can't think of anything. The stuff that I've printed, I've been happy with, and it's been done at a decent speed. the UI is easy to navigate. The fact that you can just throw stuff into Chitubox and then put it on a stick and then put it into the printer without having to change any of the settings outside of the default settings for the Mars 2 Pro, and it still comes out looking good no matter what the scale of the model is. I mean, for someone who is new to this, for someone who is not an experienced 3D printing enthusiast, who has not had the chance to really get used to drilling down into the details, to still only get stuff that you're happy with, and you've found it incredibly easy to print in the first place. I mean, I don't think you can get any better than that, especially if you're just starting out. I would suggest, if you're looking to get started with 3D printing and you're not really sure where to start, I mean, the Mars 2 Pro is a pretty good place to start. It's not particularly expensive. It's really easy to set up, really easy to use. I've just had no problems with it. I've just had no issues with it at all. If you've had any experience of the Mars 2 Pro yourself, then let us know in the comments so people can take a look. If you've got any tips or tricks, or what profile of settings you use to get the most out of it for smaller, more detailed prints, then by all means also share that below as well. That would be really helpful for a lot of people, myself included. Yeah, honestly, just nothing but good things to say. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you for the next one.